So it's very simple and can be difficult to do because there's not much of not a steady object in it. We're actually moving from one object to the next. Whatever arises is what you should follow. So the way it goes is holding the body very still. You're sitting on a cushion and the back should be straight. You can also lean back, eyes open. You can put your hands in this called cosmic mudra, left over right with the thumb slightly touching. The only reason we really do this is because generally we're very casual about our hands. They're kind of anywhere, or it's random. You could also put them on your knees, but that's something we do all the time. So this is a little bit more fussy, you could say, place. Body follows mind, mind follows body. They kind of go back and forth. And we can't find the mind. You probably noticed that. When we do find, it's kind of coming up in parts and you can't get a hold of any, there's no handles there. So you can't do anything with it other than maybe be frustrated by it or bored. So what is being suggested in this way of practicing is that you hold very still, and by having the hands in this position, it over time, it takes a while. Over time, it starts to affect the way in which your intention operates, the way in which you actually hold your body, holding very, very still. And I like to say this: hold very, very still for short periods of time. It's not military. It's not traditional Japanese form of don't move or it will hit you kind of thing. But just hold, when you are holding still, hold very still without being rigid. And then if something is sore or is uncomfortable, don't hesitate. Go ahead and move your shoulders or whatever, and then return to this position. So it's a matter of just finding a balance between not moving at all or very, very little or very slightly, and actually making sure that nothing goes to sleep necessarily. If you're sitting on the floor and you haven't sat on the floor much, your legs might go to sleep. It's natural, and eventually that goes away. So this is this one here, and I'm fine with you doing whatever you want to do. Eyes are open, and since we're not facing a wall in Shikantaza, normally we would face a wall. Since we're not doing that, you would look at the back of the person in front of you or the back of the chair, or in my case here, I'm looking straight down at the floor, about 3 feet out or so. And it's kind of what's called a soft gaze or diffused. We're not really kind of picking on anything, but we're not ignoring anything either. So the gaze could come into focus and go out, come in and go out. And at the same time, what we're doing is by holding very still, since the body and mind are separated, but not fundamentally separate, by holding very, very still and observing that which continues to move. We notice that through contrast to the stillness of the body, movement of thought patterns, ideas, memories, preconceptions, and so on. And the idea isn't to stop those, but rather to train, sharpen the awareness so that when one gets up off the chair, the cushion goes into your everyday life. You take that attention and that sharpness and that focus with you. So in other words, and that won't, the sitting practice of meditation may never be particularly enjoyable. It may be boring. Not such a bad thing, since that's a sign that you're giving up on the need or the attachment to entertainment, which is not a bad idea. Nothing wrong with entertainment, but when we're attached to something, then it tends to bring up other issues that can be difficult. So holding very, very still without being rigid. All the senses open, in particular the eyes, just gazing down. And just observe what continues to move, rather like watching clouds in the sky. If you are holding very still and endeavoring to just observe what continues to move, then whatever moves, whatever appears, is exactly what you need to see at this very moment. There's nothing to correct. This is a path of awareness, not a path of attainment. Just observe. The way to train is just like clouds in the sky. Interesting, entertaining, but really none of your business. Take that same attitude towards all the movement in the consciousness. None of your business. Of course, not that it isn't on some level, but for the purposes of training the awareness, strengthening the awareness, just observe with no comment. And don't accept, reject, or ignore. Just observe. So I can talk a little bit about what that's all about. But are there any questions that come right out of that little sitting practice, short period, 10 minutes or something like that? Very long. Yes.
I keep feeling like I'm succumbing to naming everything.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then it changes. And so I try to maybe have a sound.
Yes.
All that naming.
You're noticing that you're naming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just awareness.
It just,
Doesn't matter. What would matter in that context is don't give up. Stop because that's happening. Just keep watching. It won't last. Nothing lasts. Anything that rises in your mind stream when you're sitting, entertainment, boredom, whatever it is, you continue to practice, it will change into something else, which is not particularly entertaining. Any other questions? Okay, so meditation as it's being taught here is called shikantaza, as I said before, just precisely this. So it's basically saying, it's different than other kinds, and I'd be happy to address those other kinds of meditation and maybe do some contrast here, because there isn't a right and wrong here. That's just what you're ready to practice and what you really need personally to help you with your awareness practice, so you can suffer less, so you can have a clear understanding of what's going on in your world. And these days the world is all messed up the way it looks. Not that I'm going to judge. So holding very still and watching what continues to move is a way that we sharpen the observer quality of our awareness. Some meditation practices have techniques where they try to stabilize the meditator, or stabilize your identity as a meditator, as someone who, in the Tibetan tradition, this is called shine, or calm abiding, sometimes called resting in tranquility. And then the one that extends out of that is vipassana, or lakton, or awareness. And that is a valid way. I practiced that way for decades, so I understand it. I taught that a lot. I don't teach that anymore unless I do it individually by interviewing, sitting and talking to someone and seeing what's happening with their mind, with their discursive thought, with their tendency to fight with themselves or fight with the world. I may have someone do that kind of practice. But generally, I recommend just a completely open practice. Sit down, all the senses are open, see what happens. And the way you can see more clearly is to hold very still and to look at something that's not particularly entertaining, like a wall. But when your eyes are open, there's something about the whole complex of body, speech, mind, the six sense fields and their objects, and the consciousnesses that allow those objects to come, the function in relationship to the mind, to the brain, to the consciousness. The way that operates, as soon as you close the eyes, all of them shift. They all shift in a very, very subtle way, and not one that you can track conceptually. If you could, then there'd be books about it. A way of talking about that is all of the senses, other than the sense of seeing, are very intimate. Even the sense of sound feels like it happens right here. If we close our eyes, we have a locator, we kind of know where that sound is coming from. But the feeling of sound is pretty intimate. The shape of sound relative to the space in which the sound occurs is very intimate. It's our space. We hear it in that space. We don't differentiate. Whereas a sense of seeing, we put everything over there. And we do that not only through the eye consciousness, but through the thinking process, what we call the sixth, seventh, and eighth consciousness, that actually track that activity. So when you open the eyes, you are immediately in the present moment. You might not stay there, but you're there. And if you close the eyes, much easier to have what we call a more peaceful, calm, easygoing, have a nice meditation experience. As a meditation teacher, I'm not interested in you having a good meditation experience. but I also don't want you to have a bad one either. It's just that the thing that is emphasized is the awareness rather than how you feel about it. The awareness to be able to understand, see fundamentally what is going on in your mind, rather than be trapped by the concepts, ideas, opinions, preconceptions that wrap themselves around so that we can't think clearly. We can't actually use the thinking process because it's held in place by what? Hope to think something better and fear that we won't get it. So hope and fear are the two. There's of course, lots of nuances there, but that can keep you moving this way and this way or going in circles for years. So sitting down, eyes open, look at the wall, look at the carpeting, hold still, and do that and do it, whatever, an hour a day over a long period of time. You will see that the objects that arise, whatever comes up as an experience, will keep changing. It just changes and changes and changes. One of the things that doesn't change as what it is, but gains in strength, is the actual witnessing or seeing of that becomes sharper and sharper and sharper over time, because you're doing what? You're not adding to whatever arises. You're not saying, good, I like that. Or something arises, no, I don't like that. That's not a good experience. I shouldn't be having that. You're not having some discursive thought to come in and kind of analyze what's happening and keep some of the good things, throw away the bad things. This does not mean that forms of meditation like Vipassana that are functioning on a different level while operating with things in a different way, that those aren't valid. And if that is your practice and you feel connected with that, you should continue to do it. You can listen to this, you can hear what I'm saying, but you should trust yourself as to what you should be doing. And that doesn't mean that you wouldn't have somebody to help you, a teacher or teachers, but fundamentally it's up to you what's going to work for you, what you need to do at any given time. So different. So very, very well-known, accomplished, popular teachers have different ways, sometimes have completely opposite ways of talking about meditation, teaching, and so on. Some think religion or Buddhism or all those forms are useless and think there should just be an awareness practice. I'm not here to argue about that, but I'm a monk, so that's my argument. I think we need this glue, but maybe not. Maybe you don't. Some of us do. Questions at this point? Yes.
What do you have thoughts on using visualization when something to it? For example, I had a song in my head.
Yeah.
It would like kind of fade out, but it kept coming back, and I was like,
Okay.
enough with the soundtrack. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So the woman who's singing it in my mind, I like put her on a raft and pushed her out in the water so it got quiet.
Okay. How long have you been meditating? Have you meditated much?
I mean, well, yes and no. I kind of have gone in and out of it, and I've only recently been like putting more and more time into it.
So everything that you described is what I see is just awareness. Those are shapes and forms and colors and stories that come into the awareness and leave. But that which sees that doesn't do anything but see it. So, but this gets emphasized, that identity starts to change over from the critical identity of accepting, rejecting, analyzing, like the commentary, why is this happening? That kind of thing. The commentary is always extra. Not wrong. It's not like saying we shouldn't do that. But what we do as meditators, we work with the awareness itself and just allow that to come. That will come and it will go and it'll come back and it'll be gone for 3 or 4 days. Then it'll come back. And the most important thing you can remember is don't stop. Don't quit. Whether you become a Buddhist or not, that's totally your business. And I'm not here to sell you anything. But I am here to, since you give me permission by sitting here, I'm saying practice a lot. Practice awareness. Practice sit, hold still, eyes open. And whatever arises, that's your object. That's what you need to watch. And that will, just by watching what arises without adding to it, no comment. If it goes away, no comment. If it turns this way, no comment. Just, and slowly what you're doing is you could say it this way: you're increasing the just pure objectivity of your awareness, so you can just see clearly what's arising and what's passing away.
Well, I was just thinking about that specifically, so, I mean, so over the past year, I've been trying to lengthen my daily time more and more. It doesn't happen all the time, but for that, for example, like what you're saying, so let's say you have just use the song as an example. Let's say you have a song and with these, like, just spend the whole.
Which song is it?
It's an Adele song that I
Which
keep
one?
hearing. It's an Adele song that I keep hearing on the radio when
It's-
I'm playing.
You
my
say
phone.
salsa?
Adele.
Oh,
I
Adele.
mean, every time. So it
Okay,
was
so-
meditation, I would put Adele on a
Yeah.
rap and was like, okay.
Yeah.
later.
So there's not a problem with that. But it's still it's a form of entertainment, and it's rising, and it's just a real obvious kind of entertainment. But enjoy the entertainment. It's just that you keep your posture, hold still, and witness that entertainment in a still, not rigid, a very still position, eyes open. There and do it for you. Do you meditate an hour a day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not every day, but yeah,
Well,
as many minutes as I can every day, but yeah.
more sitting, more time. All you're really doing is taking a little sliver of your daily, the 24 hours in the day, as they say, taking some of that out, and you're going to take that blade of awareness that's constantly chopping, usually 24 hours a day, thinking, and you're going to bring it back, and you're just going to play music for a little while. You know, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Eventually, the blade gets sharpened. Music won't last. And it doesn't, and I mean this, I'm not just kidding in this way. It really doesn't matter what arises. What is important about awareness is the awareness itself. It's a space in which things occur. That which occurs will fade. And it will fade even faster if you don't push it away, if you don't support it with explanations, or do like you were doing your little commentary that went on top of it. You remember it? What did you say?
Something like I didn't really want the soundtrack
Yeah,
anymore.
that's commentary. And that probably happens, the song arises, and just enjoy the song. Just let the song come and go. I had a song in my head all the way over here. What was that guy's name?
Bradford Loomis.
Bradford Loomis' song was, what's it called?
Dead Man's Dance.
Dead Man's Dance. A great song. It kind of run its course by the time I got here. But yeah, and I think I would say this about any object that arises is what you need to say at any given time. And when I say that, I'm not saying it's some kind of miraculous thing that's happening to you. It's just that the way all the causes and conditions that arise as any given person are extremely unique, like fingerprints. And so you don't, this isn't taught everywhere, and it's not anything all that special, but we really need to have respect for each person's karma and each person's life situation. And not only do I need to do that for anyone I meet, but I need to help you do that for yourself so you can train your mind to hold still and see what occurs, because that same mind that is watching that music very carefully without pushing it away, without turning up the volume, and without distracting yourself or trying to get into some other thing that'll, following your breath so you don't have music, something like that. That very awareness right there is the awareness that you take into your everyday life. And this is the awareness you really need to have strong and empowered. So when you run into conflict with yourself, with others, with your friends, your relatives, your mate, your society, you're seeing very, very clear, because you just got through training yourself to see clear instead of going to war. If you start going to war, you just get good at going to war. And the awareness is all on board with that. But if you train your mind to just see clearly what is happening, then you actually, your own innate intelligence starts to arise, and you're able to deal with each situation out of your wisdom mind rather than just your wild and crazy thinking process. Further question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions, since we're doing that now?
What if we can't seem to stop trying to control?
Then just watch that. Just watch the incessant jumping on it, trying to control it. Just watch it. If you do that by not having a second opinion, of, I need to stop controlling it. This is what happens. We get caught in this kind of a Mobius strip. You know, I'm not going to control it. I'm just going to not control it. And then we see what we're trying to control it. And then we go into the other Mobius strip that says, I've got to stop trying to control it, which is, of course, more control. So first thought, best thought. If you're controlling it, just watch the control. Just stay with the texture, the feeling of the control. Just like in your case, just stay with the music. Enjoy the music. Enjoy it. It'll run out. Won't last. Same thing. More? Yes.
If it's something pleasurable arising, it seems to be a little easier to just not meddle with it. How do you relate if it's something very negative that arises in meditation?
Negative is harder because we are really trying to cover it up with our explanations, our judgments, and maybe even blaming. Like, well, the reason I'm feeling this way is because of this, or I had a bad day, or people at work, or whatever, come up. And so even that has to be just observed. And one of the ways that we observe that and take some of the energy out of that, adding on, is to go into the original texture of the feeling. So if the texture of the feeling comes up as aggression, like you feel aggressive towards something, look at the texture of the aggression rather than the name that's on top of the aggression. Even the word aggression can stop you from seeing what is fundamentally under the surface and is boiling up.
Should we ever try to stop our negativity?
Only if it's hooking up to your vocal cords.
How do you mean?
If you're getting ready to bark at somebody or yell or hit somebody or something like that, obviously that should be derailed.
Could you describe what you mean by texture?
Yeah, the texture of everything, all the sense fields have texture. If you talk about the texture of music, of sound, we all know that. The texture of a painting. This is why people quite often who begin to have an intuitive understanding of that gravitate towards some kind of expression, some kind of artwork, because they can see that the textures of things are very expressive and actually express something fundamental about our nature. And so we tend to go towards things where we can actually create textures. Poetry does this. Just about everything will do that if you're operating out of a kind of intuition. But what I'm saying here in terms of the texture, talking to Chazon about the texture of anger, it's see when you lay words, explanations, elaborations on top of the aggression, original, pure, raw, negative feeling or aggression. That's usually you're trying to get rid of that or explain it or justify it or condemn it or package it up and ship it out of here. You're trying to get rid of it. And so what I'm saying here is don't do that. Don't be necessarily intimidated by your negativity, and look at that negativity as an opportunity to actually begin to awaken more to the nature of your mind, the nature of the world, the nature of negativity itself. So texture is the way we go through possibly the naming of it. As soon as you see the name arise, look what it's naming. Look under what it is and see if you can see it. And you'll usually see something that's you can't explain, can't understand, but there'll be some kind of a quality of a texture to it, like the texture of, anytime you have texture, you have space with something in the space. It's like I use the example of the nap of carpeting. Something that there's no space there. The less you have space, the closer you get to tile, linoleum or something. It's very smooth. But when you look at carpeting, there's a lot of space around all the nap there. So the texture is increased. The same thing happens with the texture of anger. Why don't you tell me what it is?
What is?
Texture. You're a monk.
Novice.
Yes. Anything? So moving past or through or around or however it works for you. It could be different with each person. Find the concept, I'm mad because, or string of concepts or the explanation. Find that, or the blaming that's going on, either blaming yourself, blaming others, blaming anything, the weather, which happens. Go to that part of it and then try to see what it's pointing at, what it's labeling. See if you can move the label so that you can see what is being referred to. And when you do that, you're getting closer to the fundamental nature of ignorance, the fundamental nature of aggression, the fundamental nature of passion. These are the three poisons in Buddhism: passion, grasping, craving, aggression, pushing away, rejecting, and ignorance, shutting down or distracting yourself into something else. So meditation practice is actually addressing those in their either very sophisticated form or their very raw form. The sophisticated form could be wrapped up in your philosophy of life or your politics or your very sophisticated type of ignorance that we talked about this morning. Very polished kind of ignorance. We go through all through school and never mention spiritual path because people are so afraid of it because everybody's so opinionated about it. So therefore, we don't teach that, and very young, that there's spirituality. There's not just this mundane world of success and failure. That these human forms arise out of nowhere and are going back into nowhere. We don't talk to our young people about this, so it's just a matter of the culture that we live in. So further, yes, back there. You had a question?
I did. It was these three gentlemen actually
Yeah.
just addressed the same thing. I was thinking about the negative thoughts that will come, and if you have a tendency to obsess about things,
Yes.
you could spend the whole hour
Yeah.
down this rabbit hole obsessing.
Let me help you. It doesn't matter, please. Anyone should just hear that. It does not matter. Because if you think it matters, then you think you have to change it, fight with it, accept it, get rid of it. But use it as anything that arises in awareness is an object of meditation. This is why I no longer teach following the breath, as I did for many, many years. Because we have plenty of stuff arising already. Let's just follow what arises. And in that way, train your attention, your awareness. So look at it as an opportunity to become more aware. Have you been meditating a while?
No, I have not.
Have you ever meditated?
And it's been just several weeks. I've done the very, very beginning.
Well, there's a teacher that was passed on, Suzuki Roshi, who wrote a book, a collection of his talks called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. So always come to the cushion as a beginner, starting from square one. And in the expert's mind, the possibilities are few, but in the beginner's mind, the possibilities are endless. The beginner's mind, completely open dimension of being. So I would just say, continue to do it. If you can, come here. Come to there's Sokuzan has a meditation group. There are probably several meditation groups. Much easier to do in a community of people getting together and studying and practicing together. But anything that once you sit down, hold still, all the senses open, whatever arises is what you personally need to see, whether it's a song or whether maybe it's a difficulty or frustration about something, or whether, no matter what it is, or like in Jim's case of being frustrated because that keeps happening over and over and over again. That would be my way of saying what you said. Is that pretty close? Or, yeah. Anything else? Huh? Okay, thank you.
Why do you have to go to the cushion to become aware of what arises? Can't you just, whatever you're doing, can't you just be aware? Well, why do you have to get in that position?
Well, how's that working for you?
Something happened today or yesterday. I had the meditation bench in my hand,
Yes.
and it dropped and broke.
Oh,
Damn, I've just a huge amount of anger, and I threw the Zafu against the sofa.
yeah.
Okay,
Did
but
it break the sofa?
no,
Well,
I wasn't. It was just.
it bounced?
Yeah, But anyway, but the point is, there was awareness there.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have experienced anything any differently if I'd been in a formal meditation position.
Okay, what's your question?
Can you practice awareness practice? Does it have to be done on the cushion with nothing moving? I mean,
With the body holding still.
yeah.
That's how it looks. But I don't know, maybe there's another way of doing it. There's, some people teach moving meditation. There's dance, there's different kinds of movement. There's Tai Chi Chuan. There's various kinds of movement. Martial arts has lots of movement. So I'm not saying you can't do that. It just depends on the combination of causes and conditions that show up as each individual's karma. Like I say this over and over and over to people because I think it's so important. If you think you're in control, go look in the mirror and look at how much control you had already. And so far, we don't know how we got here. We don't know where we got these kind of ears or this color skin or this. There's all these various things. None of us look alike. We're all different levels of understanding and so on. So we don't know. So one of the ways that you can begin to tune into what in Buddhism is called your wisdom mind, or the mind that sees through through relative truth, through opinions, ideas, and so on, that begins to see the fundamental understanding at the basis of creation of everything. The only way it seems that you can actually get close to that is to train the mind to see more deeply and not be stopped right at the gate. There's a painting by Jackson Pollock painted back in the late 40s called Guardians of the Secret. And it's like our discursive mind is like that. That's what this painting looked like, actually. It was a mess. It was a beautiful mess, as Pollock's paintings were. But there's some kind of a guardian there protecting us, and it is our discursive thought. It's like somebody wants us to stay like lemmings, just do what we're told. Whereas this is a radical. Buddhism is not something you join in a big club where everybody believes the same thing. The whole idea of belief is on hold when it comes to Buddhism. It's about awareness, not about what we believe. Buddhists don't believe very much, actually, a little bit. So it seems that holding still is this thing we need to do. But I wouldn't fight with you on it. If you want to just throw Zafus and do it that way.
Does the awareness that grows when we sit, does that awareness continue when we get off the cushion?
Yeah. But you can't see awareness, so you won't know it. Someone else might notice it. One of the ways that I've talked about this too is you might not notice much changing, except that the person, I used this example, I think this morning or recently, except the person that used to always appear to you as just a pain in the butt. They're so confused. They're always blaming. They're always doing this and doing that, or they're always attacking you, subtly. Might even be your mate, but somebody that is really a pain in the butt. I don't know how else to say it. I didn't know the Sanskrit for that. So, pain in the butt. So the person who is doing that, that your awareness practice is beginning to work, because when you're going along, you have this same kind of feeling for this person. And then maybe suddenly, or maybe gradually, you begin to see this person is acting. You begin to see through this. You see deeper into this person's mind. You see, and it's almost like it's obvious, like you might be surprised that you didn't see before. This person's doing this because they're in so much pain. They're suffering. You're suffering. And maybe pure compassion doesn't necessarily arise, but at least some understanding, and you kind of give them a little bit of a break. You might not, someone you may have even fought with, you kind of stop fighting with them. It just doesn't mean you let them beat you up. But something starts to change in that area about the perception of not only of your own mind, you start to not be so hard on yourself. If you fight with this, go like this. If you go like this is you. If you fight with this person, then you're going to fight with everyone else, even very subtly. So really need to make, as my teacher, Trungpa Rinpoche, said, we really need to make friends with ourselves on a really deep level. And you don't make friends with that situation by trying to change it or fight with it or hammer it down or something. You actually go in, you work with the negativity that's there, and you stop fighting with it. And it's amazing. If you stop fighting with negativity, then negativity needs some kind of opposition. You can't have a war if nobody shows up. To quote E.E. Cummings. Actually, it's probably a paraphrase. Questions? Yes.
I think this sort of dovetails with even with the anger thing, but, you know, the avoidance thing, which is you sit there absolutely still, relaxing, focused, and you want to fade away, not off.
Yes.
So, I mean, be aware of that, and the tendency still is to not off.
Yes.
To a point where maybe I just better go lay down because I'm not staying for this. So
What's your
how
question?
would you deal with that? Besides,
Pretty much like you're saying. If it depends if it's an all-day retreat, say you're sitting for 7 or 8 hours in a day, and in the afternoon you're getting sleepy, you might want to go, instead of fighting with it, like you're saying, instead of going like this, like bobbing for eggs or for apples. I'm sorry. Well, they're round. No, they're not round, really. You would go and take a nap, take a 20-minute nap, and do that. The other way of working with that is to stay with it and you could say kind of put up with the frustration of doing that, because that is also awareness. It's very powerful awareness that can watch when it dozes off, because we doze off all the time and don't even know it. We actually, sometimes I have a practice that I sometimes teach called halfway measures, where you have something that you're doing every day, and I say, pick a point in the middle of that and just stop right there and just look at what that is and see both directions. It's like striking this bell would come down, I would go like that. But if I were practicing halfway measures, I might come down like this and just stop. If you were brushing your teeth, just something you do every day, probably on automatic pilot. Get ready, open your toothbrush or toothpaste, get ready to put it on your brush and stop. Just stop. Try it. See what that's like. It's like once we starting here and then I got to go do this, that whole time in between there, quite often everything starts to shut down and we're just like a dodo. Not trying to be impolite to dodos, but you're kind of like, oh, now I'm to the toothpaste. So is that are you following me on that a little bit? Oh, good, because I know it sounds kind of corny. Questions, please. Yes.
I'm just trying to hold that analogy a little bit. The toothbrush didn't do it. So
Okay.
I'm out, I'm supposed to be trimming these bushes, and I end up sitting there, squatting and watching a bug. And just to let myself stop.
Any place. You could stop walking across the lawn to get ready to trim, and you could just stop there.
And
Just stop. And nothing else.
which is wonderfully liberating because you're
Maybe.
totally orienting your.
Yes, you're interrupting your habit patterns. It's simple. It's nothing new, but it's something that seems to be valuable, especially in when we do the ritual practice we do at Sokuzan in Battle Creek and at Sokuzan here in Traverse. Actually, it's in Acme, right? Is to maybe find some area, if you're practicing that on your own, to find some place where you can actually stop halfway and get a better understanding of what that whole process is about. Questions? Yes. Go ahead. He's giving you the stage.
So I've heard you say that you kind of make fun of, oh, I'm mindfully opening the doorknob and I'm mindfully doing this or that. And then what's the difference between that and the halfway measures that you were just speaking of?
Well, one is a performance and one is a practice. The performance is you're performing mindfulness. I'm being very mindful and mindfully putting on my shoes. I'm mindfully walking. Just walking meditation is, you have to do a whole lot of it to get, so it's actually a practice. It's quite a bit of performance. If you ever notice people doing walking meditation, some people are just very cool looking as they lifting their feet and placing their feet. Does it sound like I'm making fun of people? I am. So the idea is to have it be a practice, have it be something that has a form to it that is strong enough so that it's actually working with your awareness, enhancing, emphasizing the awareness part rather than the accomplishment part. There's not really, the accomplishment part is more about self-centeredness and ego and wanting to be something other than who you are. Well, yes.
The acceptance of self, or not even acceptance, because I, recently just got this little aha kind of thing about the business of you don't reject it, you don't accept it, you don't ignore it. So when you say this business about this, and then I'm not saying I don't want to accept all those different things that are in me, the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever. What is that?
What's what?
Say more. That business of
Passion, aggression, and ignorance. Don't accept, don't reject, and don't look away.
what does that look like?
Okay, you can't see it.
And
It's a practice. So what you end up when you endeavor to do that, what you begin to see very closely is how you can't stop pushing on something. No matter what you do, when you look in that direction, you're pushing, or something else. You're looking some particular direction, you keep shutting down on it. Like falling asleep is one example of ignoring. It's very subtle because we have the justification, we need sleep and we must be sleepy. Little justifications sliding in our ear. So the practice is to watch the way it's just about impossible not to push, pull, or ignore. But powerful awareness starts to show up in that area. And when you can see how you're functioning that way, you'll see that which another way I like to say it is you see where the pushing is getting its fuel from. Whereas if you're just trying to fool with it, you're just trying to fight with it or stop it, then you don't really see how it works. You don't see the mechanics. You don't see the nomenclature. You don't see all the business of how that works. Whereas if you just watch the way you do it, you just watch the pushing instead of fighting with it, then you start to see, over time, you start to see more intimately the way in which that aggression or ignoring or passion, you begin to see the way that works, and you can, to continue to use that kind of an image, you can just pull away the fuel line to that. You can just go to the more deeper part of it, down into the texture of it, and start turning things off. Just an image. You may not be able to do that, but if you were, that's the way it seems to operate. And it's like there's nobody doing that when you're functioning on awareness that's on that level, that's that deep. There's no self there. There's no ego that's getting credit. It's too far down in the mind shaft. There's no light there. There's just intuition happening there. Is that helpful? Good question. I like to hear when somebody repeats something back to me like that. Yes.
Can you say more about the difference between mindfulness and awareness practice, since mindfulness is all the rage?
Yeah. And so mindfulness practice, as it's taught by, people like you say, it's all the rage. 100 years ago when I started doing this, there wasn't nobody was talking about it. I didn't even know couldn't hardly find anything to read. And now everywhere you look, mindfulness, mindfulness, mindfulness. I'm very happy about that. On the other hand, a lot of what's being taught is just some kind of I'm not finding a good example. It is more of a mundane way of working with the mind, which can be successful. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't practice mindfulness. But sometimes the way it's taught is more about trying to control the mind. In other words, trying to calm it down, you could say artificially. Just follow the breath and just follow the breath. And when things get jagged or something, and you go out, then just return to the breath, or count the breaths 1 to 10. There's several different ways to do that. And I'm not saying that's, if someone is really having a lot of difficulty, that might not be a good thing to do, but to do it as a general approach. My situation is I'm more interested in the fundamental awakening of a person to who they really are, rather than just taking who they are and trying to make a really good who they are. Is that a word? A good who they are?
Yep.
No, making, I used to be bad, now I'm good. I used to be really, before I started meditating, I was a mess. I had a terrible this or terrible that. But now, liberated, I never fight with anyone. Things are wonderful now. So I like to say, is that funny?
It's fine.
I thought so. Nice to see you laugh. I said, I think we were, Cowell, yeah, and someone there, she's not here, but we were talking about anger, I think, and how did I get into this? And it's out of really intense anger when I was very young. It really frightened me because I felt like this gets out of control. I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to hurt somebody else. It was really terrible. And I think I said, I went to somebody suggested maybe you should go to a psychiatrist. I think it was my aunt that said that. So I went, and then I detected my aunt, or not my aunt, but my the psychiatrist I went to see was crazier than I was. So I just kind of sensed that she was operating out of something that wasn't really very trustworthy. So I got out of there and eventually stumbled into, I was reading about Buddhism, didn't know how to practice it. But it was basically anger that just kept coming up, and it was just terrible. I mean, I would put my fists through plaster walls and things. I always made sure not to hit the 2x4s right between them. It really would hurt myself. So, bam! Huh?
Did you take your stud finder before you started hitting walls?
My dear, this is before stud finder. This is way back there, olden days. When a 2x4 was actually 2 inches by 4. Just a 2x4. So, anyway, I can't remember, maybe one of you can help me, how she asked about this, about if I'd gotten rid of the anger. Do you remember how she said that?
Ken, she said, where did it go?
Was that what she said? Mm-hmm.
Or you just asked if you still got angry or something.
Oh, that's right. She did say that. And I said, well, it's right here. So nothing, I haven't gotten rid of anything. That's how I'm able to teach. Because I'm not any better than I ever was. There's just an understanding about it that transcends individual self. There's no longer a solid being here. And when I look out there, I don't see any solid beings anywhere. You may see one, but I don't. So that's very inspiring, because I know that if I can see this, you can see this. So I'm not just interested in teaching a meditation that just smooths things out and levels things out. And for a lot of people, if they're really having difficulty, that kind of meditation won't work. It'll start going down, and it'll start opening things that have been sealed off. And things will start climbing up the sides of the well. And that takes a powerful awareness practice. And it's so tempting to just go to a therapist, go to a psychiatrist and get drugs, and because of scientific materialism, which is not incorrect, just doesn't go very far. They'll look at that and won't know what it is, won't know how to handle it, and won't realize the incredibly vast, complicated network that creates any given situation. Very, very complicated, karma is. They'll try to cover it with something. Prozac or Wellbutrin or anything else. I don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get help, or you shouldn't talk to somebody, or that you shouldn't even be taking that. I would never, if you were taking a medication and you were also a student of mine and a meditator, I would never take that away from you. If you began to talk about it, then I might say, well, you could talk to your therapist if you happen to have one, or you could just back that off for a week. Just see what it's like for a week. see, you actually make it be your decision to actually do that kind of thing rather than just have somebody prescribe. So the anger's still here. You want to see it? No, you don't.
Does it arise?
Yeah, it does. But it's just, one of the things she asked about that, well, how is it different? And that may help you. And it's anger without hatred. So you're just irritated, you're angry about something. But since there's no hatred there, and most of the time there's no expression of it. These people that I'm very close to seem to get mad.
When I
How bad is
slammed
it?
on the brake, on the way here, I slammed on the brakes to avoid the squirrel and your knees knocked the dashboard.
Yeah.
You got up about that for a few seconds.
How many seconds?
Half.
Half a second?
Yeah.
That's awareness. Yeah. Yeah, that was very irritating. Yes, Karen.
So if the anger is still here, and you said before that we don't make choices, really, we don't consciously make choices. So the anger comes up, you do, in some way, do make a choice to just not fuel that? Or what makes it, what actually happens to stop fueling it if you're not choosing to stop fueling it?
So there's fancy ways of talking about that in the Tibetan tradition. It's called self-existing. It doesn't have any network of complications that are no fuel lines running to it. So it's there and it happens relative to what happens. It's a kind of a reaction to what's happening, but it doesn't spread out its connections to everything. It doesn't have any history. It doesn't have any future. It has no past. And another way of saying it is there's anger, but there's no one being angry. There's no longer a solid being. And the amazing thing about that is when this begins to happen with you, that your apparent ego or self-centeredness is even more empowered because we know it's not real. So you're no longer frightened of your ego. You're no longer concerned whether somebody thinks you're egotistical or not. Not important to you. The only thing that's important to you is the truth. And that's that nothing is separate from anything else. So that's what you teach, if that's what you see. More?
No.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that where that texture would come in handy, or the awareness of the texture as it rises? So you don't.
Yeah.
At that level.
Yes. You go into the texture of it rather than going into the politics of trying to win and not lose and get control. It's just a very holistic. It's just a way of working with it actually as it actually is. The texture of it. So you're no longer, part of the anger comes from fear of being angry. Part of the depression comes from fear of being depressed. It's rare to talk to someone who, if you bring depression as that is going to say, be depressed. Go ahead, go into the depression. Let's see what that is. Go down into the depression. Let's send all the feelers down there and have a willingness to experience the difficulty, the suffering. A lot of and I couldn't talk about this if I hadn't had some experience of it, but a lot of the difficulty that we have is objecting to it. We don't want it. We want to fight with it. We want to shut down on it. We don't want that difficulty. Further questions? Yes.
Could you say something about when we're meditating, you are saying to observe, and then you're also saying to look at. And there seems to be, when I hear look at, I hear add on. You say something about the difference, observing within meditation.
I don't think there's too much. What I'm saying is that when you're doing sitting meditation, holding very still, whatever arises, if a memory, just watch, just observe it, watch it, look at it. Well, however it seems, if you're very visual, you're probably going to be looking at some images. Just look at them. Don't necessarily add on, I shouldn't be doing this. This is not meditation. Or I don't want to think about that. but whatever rises, and then do nothing extra with it. So, but looking at it would be part of, like hearing it, listening to it. If you'd hear voices in your head of somebody saying something, where you were at a party last week and something happened there, and you might be reviewing that and analyzing that. And whatever happens there, just don't make it nothing extra. Because the very thing you're looking at any given time, from the point of view of these teachings, is your Buddha nature. So you don't want to object to anything. We're not saying that it's exactly that, but it's right behind it. More. Does that help? Okay. Very similar. Questions are good.
You've said that the biggest poison is ignorance, because we don't see it.
It's difficult.
And you also said something like when the wellspring starts bubbling up with things that you haven't been able to look at, because you start meditating and you start to see things that you hadn't seen maybe. If it feels like it's too much, should you change your practice?
No, you should talk to me. Probably shouldn't make any changes unless you have to. So I would continue on that until it started to change in such a way that you see that you need to do something different. If I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, like if something's coming up and you just say, just observe,
Yes.
observe. And there's things coming up that you think, well, I can't even look at that. I'm just going to go do something else instead of meditate. Would you want to do like the breath to try to shut that out or calm it down?
I wouldn't do that. No, it'd be better to just get up and go do something else. I mean, make the ignoring or the shutting down on obvious. I'm not going to do that. That's just genuine, just straightforward. It's sneaky to go in and try to find some little tidbit that can take you away from it. It's like self-medicating yourself. You don't do it. So you're aware. It's still awareness, even if you get up and leave. It's the awareness that you're not going to look at that. Rather than there, and you have a little substitute thing. You follow me?
But on top of that, in a sense, the question is, what I was sensing,
Yeah.
you said, at least for myself,
Go ahead.
is that sometimes I want to look at something like that, but I am getting so emotionally hooked into it that I want to bring
Yes.
the level down to a point of, I can look at this now. So that, the going back to the breath or moving into a different type of meditation for a little bit, then perhaps can come back and look at it in the same meditation without necessarily having to get off the cushion.
You have a question?
So I guess the question was what I was hearing you say, that in terms of how do I kind of break the I'm not handling this too well right now,
Yeah.
rather than just get up because you want to look at it, but you don't want to look at it. You got this two thing, you should look at it. Maybe that's the word she used. I should be looking at that. And it would probably help me if I did look at that, but I can't stay with it anymore. And it's like the opposite end of, it seems to me, of just saying, I'm getting sleepy, I don't want to look at it this way. Or the other way is that I don't want to look at it this way, I got to get up and get out of it.
I'm following you. Do you have a question?
Yeah,
What is it?
I don't know. You said, I think I heard you say in a sense, don't avoid it. Don't avoid that feeling. Don't take the break. Is that what you were saying in a sense, like to calm yourself down with the breathing or something? Because I don't really want to look at that right now.
Well, can I go?
You can't teach. I'm teaching.
No, I'm just saying, let's say you had some angst that arose and you just kind of felt crappy. So I'm going to go to a movie, and you went to a lot of movies and you started meditating and you're practicing, and it's like, now this is coming up, but I'm sitting with it a little bit. And then it's getting really hot, and you're onto yourself that going to the movie was to get out a look at this, and that you need to see it a little bit. But is there anything to give you the patience to stay when you find that you're bolting off the cushion because you don't want to look at it?
That's sort of the same.
So what's the question?
Is that
How
okay?
do you stay from bolting off the cushion?
Wait a minute. Is that,
Can we do that?
yeah,
Can we use
okay.
that practice?
I'll answer your question. Yeah, you can do that. It's okay. Okay.
The other one is that, you know, part of what you say, I think, is that spend more time on cushion.
Okay.
So if I'm in that situation,
Yeah.
how, in a sense, do you bring the level of not wanting to look at it? to a point
First of all,
that-
stop bringing. Don't bring.
Okay.
Just whatever occurs is exactly what needs to occur. You may get off the cushion and you may not. So to try to find a protocol or some kind of instruction that's going to work so that you don't have to meet that where it's at with your awareness. Meeting something with your awareness is very threatening to ego because the self-centeredness wants some kind of protocol, some kind of proof. Okay, well, I'm doing this right. Now I know at least I'm getting this done right. It's very so could work both directions. Hope that's helpful. Yes.
I'm
I see you.
stretching this probably, but I think of that, we've been talking about
Yes.
pacing ourselves and trusting ourselves to do different
Okay.
modalities or to understand the avoidance and
Yes.
to observe that. And I'm thinking so often though, when you say things like compassion or other teachings, it helps me to hold on. And I'm just thinking of our, I was not raised very religious, but we're just analyzing, judging, constantly making a productive mind. And it's such a treat to have some other words to help us hold on to a little bit, like compassion, observance. I guess it helps me pace myself. I think I would wish I had more of those overarching reminders when I get in that distracted avoidance thing.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, I got a question.
Yes.
So, it's I'm new at all of this.
Yeah.
So when I sit down to meditate, so if I don't keep focusing on my breath,
Yes.
which I was happy to hear you saying that you don't necessarily always need to do that, because sometimes that makes me feel anxious.
Yeah.
So if I'm not doing that, how is it different than me just sitting there letting my mind wander? Why is it meditation and not just?
I can help you with
shutting
that.
down?
I can help you with that. If you're sitting up straight, your back is straight, you can lean back. It depends on your physical situation. You look like you're fine. You sit cross-legged on the floor. Can you do that? Yeah. So sit there, hands in this, part of it is this posture, holding very, very still as you can. When the body mind are very intimately connected, even though they look separate, they function separately in a way. But by holding very still, then you can watch the mind wander. Whereas if you're shifting the body around, the actual awareness gets laminated to the thought process. Very sticky. It's like concepts are like Velcro, and it wants everything for itself, and it wants to be right. So whereas if you're holding very still, it takes time. You can't do it right away. This is one of the reasons they have people follow the breath and so on to kind of stabilize a meditator. I've done a lot of that and taught it also, but I feel that it's better to watch what moves. Now, the interesting thing about this, what is your name? Signe?
Yeah.
So Signe, interesting thing about this is you're sitting still, you're in this posture, and you're endeavoring to observe whatever is moving in your mind or in the room. Someone's moving in the room, or birds going past the window, or sound is coming and going outside, the traffic or whatever. And you're just watching what moves. And you'll notice if you do this, that's always changing to something else. But whatever you change to has just as much power to strengthen awareness as following the breath. The problem with following the breath is we tend to use the identity, the ego tends to use that to create some kind of a really good meditator, which is an object to, or it is a impediment to really clear seeing. So when you're sitting, follow your breath for a while. If you know, say if it makes you anxious or something, then watch your thought patterns come and go. Listen to the traffic outside, whatever's moving, anything, memories coming and going. So you have to do a lot of it. You know, it has to be done a lot, and keep returning to it every day. More?
No, just my thoughts are, I mean, I like what you're saying, because what I find myself doing a lot is trying to focus on my breath, and then I'm not, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start now. And then I get all anxious, and then I'm not, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start now.
Yeah.
I'm like.
I know what you mean by okay. Yeah. So just keep it very simple. Come in, sit down, look at the wall, or look at the carpeting. But I like to say, look at the wall. Just look directly ahead. The only job there, and this is for anybody who wants to do this, your only job is to find a time to sit, find a place to sit, come in, actually sit down with all the senses open, and just watch what moves. You may watch your breath for 20, 30, 40 breaths. You don't have to count them. You may watch your breath for a while. Then you may you may notice your heartbeat. You may notice your eye blinks, you know, occasionally. You may notice, you know, maybe you have a cat, or, you know, might wander in and out of your meditation. You know, various things are in motion. Thought patterns. Then you might start thinking about lunch and what you need to buy. Music might arise. It may come and go, but if you don't meddle with any of it, if you don't fiddle around with it and try to stop it or make something else happen, then this is actually a path to more and more and more powerful awareness. It takes a long time to do it. That's the thing. That's the good news is you can do it. The bad news is, well, I just told you. So, don't give up. Just keep doing it, and just watch what moves. So if the mind is, you know, if that gets aggravating, then watch something else. Important thing is hold the body still. Other questions? Yes.
Do you count your mala?
Pardon me?
Do you count your mala?
The mala?
Do you ever use that?
If I'm doing mantra practice, I do. I've done a lot of these mala counting, and that when I studied under my Tibetan teacher Trungpa Rinpoche, I've done literally millions of not this particular mala, but my other mala that's back at the temple, millions of them. So I'm able to talk about that. Do you have a question?
That was the question. I mean, I've noticed as I watched the videos that you always have it on.
I do. And a lot of it is just a reminder to what I'm here to do. So I don't count. I do a few mantras these days in ceremony, but I don't do them as a practice anymore. Unless I'm teaching it. If I teach White Tara practice, then I teach someone how to do that particular mantra, which I just found out it's 18 syllables, not 17. Sokuzan corrected me. By the way, that mantra, mala, it's 18 syllables, right, instead of 17?
It is.
See? Loves to correct me. Yes.
Can you say something about after the meditation period of time is over?
Yes.
When, or what about the action phase? So say you're super aware now
Yes.
of some themes or
Gotcha.
issues or something that actually need to be addressed.
Okay.
So talk about that for me, because I get the
Ask me a question about it. I'm very excited about what you're saying. You got a lot of energy. You need to ask me a
I
question.
have way too much energy.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I'm trying to.
Yeah, you got a lot of energy. What?
Is that part of, I'm a mindfulness person, I was trained that way, so this is all new for me.
Okay, I can tell.
So,
But I can tell you were trained. Go ahead.
well, okay, so you
Yes.
get the awareness piece.
Yes.
And is this also part of the awareness practice or your philosophy, or I don't even know the words to use,
Whatever.
to take action at some point on all these things you are now aware of? I'm assuming that's part of
Yeah.
the purpose. Part.
Okay. So is the question is about taking action?
Well, yeah, is that a part of
I can respond.
this?
I'm ready.
Right? Go.
Okay. So, this is a teaching I give all the time, and don't do anything unless you have to. And what this does is this keeps you back away from kind of impulsive kind of actions based on just wanting to fix this, move this, push that, just wanting to be involved, wanting to be active. Don't do anything unless you have to. And if you, when I say have to, you just can't help it. You have to go and push on this or join this organization or meditate for that matter. Don't even meditate unless you have to. And then you really are starting to get to know yourself. It's called, the other word for this is patience. Yeah. Don't say, oh God. Not in a church. No, you can say, oh God. So, but it's actually allowing things to, look, if something is arising, and if you act on it too soon, you haven't even given it a chance to manifest itself so you can see what it actually is. So wait, hold back and see if it's going to change and go another direction before you work with it. Actually wait, and meditation practice over time will I guess you'd say create or allow or strengthen that ability to hold your seat and allow things to come to you. There's a teacher in the 13th century called Dogen Zenji, Japanese monk, who started the lineage in which I'm ordained, and the rest of us are all ordained in here. Soto Zen practice. He was a very wonderful teacher, great teacher. He wrote, he only died at the age of like 53, but he managed to do a lot of teachings that were incredible. One of his teachings is, and I have to paraphrase it, is when all the dharmas or all the things that are happening in the world, all the activity, dharmas, or dharma means law or truth or function. So everything that's happening has its own dharma. And when you go out towards the dharmas to do this, push on this, push on that, run with this, do anything like this is called delusion. It's delusion to do that because you're interacting with other situations that are also unclear. It's like the democratic system. It's too bad it doesn't work. So that's as far as I'm going to go into politics. So, but I'm just saying that when we go out towards things and try to manipulate, push and pull, he called this delusion. But when we allow the dharmas or all of the things that are happening in the world to come to us, then they come in exactly the order in which they need to. And this is called awakening. Now, this doesn't mean, look at me, I'm sitting here with a group of people, I'm running my mouth. Well, I'm talking about this, saying this, but it's based on 40 plus years of not doing that. I easily spent 30 years not teaching at all. Spent 30 years just studying in a group with other people, having a Dharma book and discussing with people, not functioning as a teacher. I functioned as a meditation instructor. I'll teach you how to meditate, but I wasn't in a position to teach in the way that I do now. So allow everything to come to you so that you can actually get some clarity about what this world is about. It's very difficult to do that, especially with someone as much energy as you've got. You have a lot of energy.
I'm really afraid not to get things done.
I know this is your particular style is. I won't go into that, but it's energy. The way you work with energy. How much sitting do you do?
You mean meditation?
Meditation.
Sitting?
Yeah.
Like a half hour.
Eyes open.
Yeah. Last time you told me to do it like 4 hours.
I did. I remember you.
I tried to change my hair so you would.
I tried to change mine too, but I couldn't find any. I remember you. Yeah. How did you have your hair?
Straight.
It was straight. No wonder. Yeah, and 4 hours. Find a time. Is this your husband?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Help her find a time when you can actually block sitting or sitting over a long period of time would really be really helpful for you. I'm serious. Well, I'm serious. But you'd have to do it. And it's just a matter of you sit down, you have a clock, Don't use your smartphone. Everybody should stop using your smartphone for meditation. Don't use it because it will take over your life. It'll be telling you how long to meditate and how good your meditation was and what your heart rate is and what your blood sugar is and everything. Don't do it. So sit down, strike the gong or the water glass or whatever you have, and sit there for 4 hours. This doesn't mean you can't get up, go to the restroom, maybe even fix a sandwich, make some tea, come back, sit back down, but make sure the main practice for that whole hour is to do that. Now, you might have to get up a lot in order to get through that 4 hours, but make sure that the whole thing, it's like you get on a train. You can go to the club car, but eventually you're going to have to come back to your seat and sit down. You know, the train has not reached Port Huron yet, which is about 4 hours away. So you just keep coming back, and then when the 4 hours is up, then you can stop, you can get up. But that kind of practice, actually, you could say it stretches the awareness in such a way that there's less of a temptation to fill up the space that is arising with action. Like you're saying, you want to be busy, you want to be doing this or doing that or doing this, and that's actually a form of ignorance. It's a form of covering things up, wouldn't you say? Yeah. See, so look how much awareness is already there. You're already aware of what that's doing. You're welcome. Thank you for revealing yourself. Further questions? Yes.
When do you feel happy?
Right now.
Encourages happiness for you?
When do I feel happy? Right now. Further question?
Making a difference.
I'm making a difference? Yeah, no, that doesn't apply. Not here, not from here. I know what you're saying, but it doesn't work that way over here. That's S training. Isn't it? Or one of those other training. No. Making a difference. There isn't anything happening other than meet everything where it's at. I have people who want to study. I had this gentleman here came to me years ago and said he wanted to be a monk. I thought, okay. He said, how do I do that? Where can I go? And I said, how about right here? And I think you said, we can do that? I said, yeah. And so that's what we did. But it always happens mutually. So if nobody comes here, as I sometimes say, trying to be cute, funny, I stay home and watch Netflix. I wouldn't go out and kind of drum up, trying to convince this is really good, you should meditate, you'll be so happy. Because you may not be real happy. You may meditate, and I may give you instruction, you may go and do this practice, and you may think, this sucks. This is terrible. I'm going to go start doing closed eye meditation. I'm going to go back and study the way the S.N. Goenka teaches, the Vipassana style. Not wrong. It's just a different way of working with the mind that is about soothing, calming. The problem with that, it is not. It will help some people, but some people really need the fundamental awakening. They won't settle for anything less, and their mind will go crazy unless they get it. They need to fundamentally open, fundamentally see the truth. That's what happened with this old man. I couldn't have gone to some kind of a different approach. Is that helpful? Yes. I can't remember your name. Mary Elizabeth, that's right.
Is there, have there been any spontaneous awakenings in this tradition?
Well, I think spontaneous awakenings, happen inside, outside of the tradition. The karma that each of us has goes back probably millions of years, and I haven't proof of that, but that's the way it looks from studying this for a long time. The various, past life stuff is all over the place. So we don't know how much work we've done on ourselves in a past time, but the timing is not up to us. It's not up to us as individuals. It's just about the way the universe is unfolding, and you just happen to be one of the petals. Not to be particularly romantic, but it's like that. It's like you're just part of this. You see how little control you have over everything. It really allows you to flow and be helpful to everyone, to yourself and to everyone. So spontaneous awakening, like perhaps we've all heard of Byron Katie, who had a spontaneous awakening and was outside of the tradition and just awoke. I've never met her, but it looks like she probably did have an awakening, and has a system for helping people approach that through their intellect using four questions and turn it around. More?
Well, you always remind us it's gonna take a lot of meditating, a long time. So I'm assuming the majority of us, that's how it's gonna be, but, so I guess my question is, there are some spontaneous awakenings, and you're just saying that has to do with karma.
Probably. I've not met one. I've only met two people I'm pretty sure were awake, and both of them were teachers of mine.
I'm trying to think of, I can't believe I can't remember his name right now, but Papaji's teacher who went to Arunachala in India.
Ramana Maharshi. Yeah. He was a spontaneous realizer. He awoke when he was 18, come in from playing football, fell on the living room floor, and died. Died to his his little self, and awoke into reality. And then went to Arunachala and went into a cave and stayed there for 20 years. And wouldn't talk to anybody. So people would come because in that culture, someone on a spiritual path, they take care of them, they feed them. Here, they lock you up and call you homeless. You couldn't get away with that. You couldn't go somewhere and just sit and meditate. You would be arrested, or even worse if your skin were dark. So it's a society is really, really not supportive of that kind of awakening.
So when you said you didn't know anyone personally that had, we just hear stories like Ramana.
Yeah, and that's how it looks. Like you say, Ramdas?
Ramana.
Or Ramana Maharshi, yeah. And I don't know about Ramdas. He's a pretty fancy guy.
He's what?
Huh?
He's what?
He's pretty fancy.
Oh, he's pretty.
I like him. He's a nice fellow. So further questions about meditation or how it works, why it works? Why doesn't it work? How much should you do? Why not just do something else? Why bother? Yes.
You're focusing today, and as I the other day, but very much on the specific awareness piece. And I think I'm hungry for some other traditions to help hold me. And in your teaching, do you vary and you go into more of these stories and like the parables and other traditions have different metaphors? Like when you come up with an imagery, I can grab onto it.
Okay.
And
so what is it you're looking for? What's your question?
I keep wanting to grab onto bigger picture things that help me organize this experience.
How about a Ferris wheel?
Oh, that's a good one.
How about a merry-go-round?
I can go with that.
Merry-go-round, samsara is like a merry-go-round or a Ferris wheel that goes around and around, and life goes around. We're moving from one horse seat to the next, or a chair back here, and we're just going around and around and around. And someone who is awake is standing off watching that, has gotten off from the merry-go-round. There's an image. But they may get back on to help somebody.
You gotta go pay the bills.
Oh, no, you should get somebody to do that for you. Further questions at all? Okay, let's sit some more. Can we end at 7?
Yeah.
I'll sit for another 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll have just a few minutes at the end for any final questions about sitting. And I'll do a little bit more guided meditation. So, but not too much. I'll let you kind of go on your own. Eyes open. Hands in your lap, left over right, thumbs touching slightly. Back straight. Whatever rises is what you need to see. Just observe. Insofar as you're able, don't add on, don't subtract, don't divide. No commentary at all. Just observe. Whatever's arising right now, if anything, just observe. Just like watching fish in a pond. Thoughts going this way or that way. None of your business. Let them go. Just observe. So a little bit more meditation. Any further questions come up? So it all makes perfect sense. So I'd like to say that in closing that, and I'm going to ask Sokuzan to say a little bit about the Traverse City meditation community. But before we do that, I'd like to say that it seems to be very important to if you want to pursue this, it's not, like I have said, it's not a sales pitch, it's up to you. It takes a lot of work, but if you want to pursue it, to try to schedule yourself to sit once a day, 5 or 6 times a week anyway, and maybe for an hour, and then to do some block sitting, like I was talking about earlier. That's done here in a group. That's done some here and some at the Sokuzan Traverse City at your house, right? So I encourage that, and also the other thing that is quite often left out of Dharma study and practice that we emphasize at Sokuzan, and is the study part with Sangha. Say the 3 jewels are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. If you want to study Buddhism, if you want to study just meditation, that's possible too. Maybe a little more difficult. But the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the Buddha is the example of someone who is sane. The Dharma is the truth that he taught. Everything is dependently arisen. Nothing comes from its own side. It's another way of talking about egolessness. No self, no other. Everything is dependently arisen. Everything is dependent on everything else for its apparent identity. And the last one, the one that is quite often not paid enough attention to, is Sangha. So you have the teacher, the teaching, and the community. And that last one seems to be very important for, this took me a long time to learn this, is to get together with other people who are studying the same material and discuss that material. And in our community, Buddhist community, Sokokoji, I emphasize studying root texts, not just contemporary commentaries, but for instance, the Shobogenzo, the 13th century text, also the works of Longchenpa, the 14th century Tibetan sage, and the early sutras, the Samdhi Nirmachana Sutra and the Lankavatara Sutra, which are both sutras that support the Chinese Chan and Zen teachings. And we don't ignore the early teachings of the Buddha. We studied the Agamas. Recently, we spent a whole year on what was it, Majjhima Nikaya. Spent a whole year on that, studying it once a day or twice a day. Once a week. Once a week.
Noon every day.
At noon every day. We spent a lot of time studying that. We do have a call-in number. If you have an interest, you can call in and join a book study every day at noon. Usually, Unyo, my wife Unyo, facilitates that, or one of the temple residents, one of the monks who lives there. And then also, if you wish, you could, if you want to get some strong practice, we're open to having people come and apply to come down and study there. There's several people who have done retreat practice that are here in this room. We have a scheduled practice for a practice resident. If you came there and lived for a week, you would be scheduled to sit 6.5 hours every day, every weekday. And along with just 2 in the morning, 2.5 in the afternoon, 2 more at night. And there are people living there that have been doing that for years. So this doesn't mean that they might not interrupt that to go to their job or something like that. So very powerful. And it's a matter of how much you personally want to strengthen this, how much you want to do it. This provides a way of, gives you an environment, a container where this is the form. You come in and you just do this. You just follow this practice. It's very powerful. And I highly recommend it. And we're just getting terribly rich doing this. Any questions about that? Or anything else for that matter? Yes.
Do you have a resource on your website for some of those books that you were talking about?
Oh, yes. Yeah. We have a whole, write to us and ask, Muno's name is on there, you can ask her and she can send you a list of all the books that we study. I think there's 10 different books. They're changing all the time. I mean, we stay with something for 6 months or a year, and then we'll change one of them to something. We just went, we're going through the Lankavatara Sutra, which is one of the foundation texts for Chan and Zen Buddhism. We're starting it for the 3rd time, and we go very slow. Almost, the people are nodding and smiling. Our people have been there and noticed that Hunyo has a way of slowing way down. Read the same paragraph over and over again, and really discuss that, go down into that material, rather than just, oh yeah, I read that book, and I read that book, and quite so easy to do that. We read a book, and if we don't quite get it, we just go to the next paragraph. Well, I kind of get that, but they go to the next and wait till something we kind of understand. We may go back and reread it once, but it's rare to actually have a discussion with other people who are also reading that, and actually even interact with the teaching person around that material, someone who's been studying it a long time. So it's very valuable to do that. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. And if you want a copy, we'd be happy to send anybody copies of those resources. Some of them you can get through Kindle. You can get free online, some of the PDF files. So, anything else? Okay, Sokuzan, would you like to make an announcement? Just about the community here?
Yeah, my name's Sokuzan, Karen McLean. I've been practicing here with the Traverse City Mindfulness Meditation Group for about 8 years. I met my teacher here. I was involved in another group, and Gary actually said, there's a Buddhist priest coming to teach. And I thought, well, I can't sit for a whole day, and I met him, and I was intimidated but magnetized at the same time. And got involved in the Traverse City Mindfulness Meditation Group, which Felita leads here, and got a lot of experience doing book studies and working with people. And it's been very, very helpful. And the closer I got to my teacher, the more I realized that there's lots of different paths, but it seems important to go down deep and with the support of a particular path or way of doing things. And I feel inspired to share the teachings and provide a place to practice the way my teacher has taught me to do. So I would like to stay involved with the Traverse City Mindfulness Meditation Group, and also see a community, a Sokukoji community expanded to Traverse City. So right now we function out of my house. We have a study group. We do small retreats. We taught a class at Munson. We come here. We went to Pugsley this morning. And as community and interest grows, eventually we hope to have a bigger place of practice up here. So if you're interested to be involved, we can go to the Sokukoji website. I have a few cards representing the Traverse City group here. You're welcome to come to the temple down in Battle Creek. There's people who road trip down there for month-end sesshin or month-end retreat that we do every month there. And we're 501c3 nonprofit, and we run on donations to travel and teach. So we have a basket in the back. If anybody's inspired to help us, please do. You can do so online too. Thank you.
And when do you meet? You're in town?
Well, the Tuesday night group at my house, and like Sokuzan said, we're studying more provisional texts. It sounds deep. It's really a jumping off point for conversation. So when we study the deep things, it's not like we figure it out. I think the idea is to unpin us from what we thought we knew. And so sometimes the teachings can be confusing sounding, but really we're all in it together, and it's very helpful even if you don't understand it. So, and you don't have to have any requirements of practice or study, just an interest to be with and see what this is. We do this at my house until we can't fit the space. So you're welcome to come. I'll leave my cards in the back. It's got sokukoji.org website, and I have a contact on there, and it says my name in Traverse City. We're working on getting a website up here, but I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to technology, and somebody gave us a WordPress site, and I have no idea how to set it up. So just state your, anybody's
Questions?
welcome.
I just wonder, are you guys at all affiliated with, at the Higher Self Bookstore? They have a meditation room and they have a Zen.
A while ago, I first started meditating in town through there, and they were generous in letting us use our space. And the person that I meditated with, Paul Sutherland, owns the Spirituality and Health Building downtown. They do publishing and some yoga teaching there, and they've offered to let me use the space to lead us whatever we want to do. And he suggested doing a class. So we were thinking of, if we had the energy after this weekend, to get a retreat together and use it as a kickoff to Introduction to Buddhism and do some of the basic teachings of Buddhism and basic meditation teaching, and using their space. So we could keep you posted on that if anybody's interested in that too.
You want to say something about the Sunday group that is here?
Yes, the Traverse City Mindfulness Meditation Group, like I was talking about, where I met in Sokuzan here, they meet on Sunday evenings, study usually Buddhist texts. Different people lead the groups. It meets from 5 to 7 o'clock on Sunday evenings, and anybody's welcome to come. Fleta Brown's a facilitator of that group, and then when she's gone, there's other people in this community that lead the study. So they sit for an hour and then study a book for an hour.
And they do a block sit.
Then they do a block sit on
4 hours.
the first Sunday of the month, from 2:30 to 6:30, and then we have social time afterwards. So bring something to.
What about the football scrimmages between the two groups in town? Is that scheduled?
I haven't heard of that. Is that been going on?
It's rugby.
Cricket.
Put a ball in the middle of the field and then observe it.
All right. We'd like you to be the coordinator.
And also the UU, I'd like to thank the UU because they've been very generous and supportive, and we've done several retreats here. Mindfulness, Traverse City Mindfulness Meditation Group, Sokukoji. I've got a working relationship with Sarah Montgomery and involved with Area Council on Religious Diversity, and we meet, and I represent Buddhism in that group. And this place lets us host some of our events too. So they've been very, very generous with their space and time and resources.
It's been a while since I come to the Sunday night. Do we shift for summer and winter hours anymore? Okay.
No, I think we have decided on 5 to 7 year round.
Okay.
So the last thing I'm going to say, and I think was already mentioned, but just emphasize, if you want to do an all day, if you want to come down to the Sokukoji, which is a monastery, you want to come down there the last Saturday of every month. There's sitting from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. So roughly about 7 or 8 hours of sitting, but there's also some work period. I give a talk. I give private interviews during that time. If you wanted to come, I think is it a night? $40 for the retreat, and it's $40 a night to stay there. So it's not too much. So if it's something that interests you, you want to come there, just get a hold of Unyo or Chezan, who can handle that and organize it or whatever. Anything else? Very good. Thank you so much.